Wide. It's time for Dr. Rademaker's prescription for transformation. Let's tap into your own authentic genius and live the life you desire.
You are now listening to...
Join Dr. Rademaker for an enlightened conversation about our brain intelligence, our body intelligence, and our energy intelligence. And now, here's your host, Dr. Bart Rademaker.
Welcome. I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, prescription for your transformation, real people, real conversations, and real success. And as I'm trying to do the final connections, technology does like to take its time. I want to make sure that I'm live on all the different platforms that I get to play with today. So it's all about our, let's put it, well-being. The key with this is that, we have to understand best how to manage that well-being. And one of the challenges that we all have is really the insights of what it takes to be healthy, what it takes to really get dialed in to the best possible health that you can ever have. And so for today, I'm really excited to be talking about a very particular topic that I think is problematic for practically all of us. Yes, there are some of us that, have an easy process of consuming food, digesting it quickly, and not maintaining the weight. But most of us don't. And in my personal life, I've had that challenge over the years. As I got older, I gained the pounds. I had many excuses not to work out. I had many reasons to enjoy wonderful food and just had this essentially downward spiral of gaining weight and not knowing what to do about it. And with the advent of all these wellness gurus out there who suddenly have the magic solution for all of us, only to find that many of them just didn't work. And it was very frustrating because you had all these experts, they had all the right ideas. And what I found was that, yes, some of those ideas worked for some people some of the time, but there was such a limitation and such a rigidity in that process that it never made it any fun for me to maintain a certain nutritional plan. And maybe it's because I have a short attention span, or maybe I just, like to be very efficient with my time. It's actually that, not the attention span. I can stay very focused. I'm a plastic surgeon, for God's sake, so I can stay very, very focused for a long time. But the point was that I wasn't getting results, and I would just dispel this process very, very quickly. And so what I'm delighted to share with you today is someone who's got the right point of view, that everything is always possible. There's always a solution. There's always a way, as she likes to put it. And it's not your traditional, like, okay, follow these rules, check these calories. This is the fat content, that's the protein content. No, it's finding the solution that works absolutely for you. So she gets to be dialed in to you, your lifestyle, your wants, your needs, but more importantly, and this is the best part, this is why you need to hire her. And I don't get any commission for this, by the way. The reason you want to hire her is because she will be giving you ongoing advice on the spot when you go to certain restaurants, because that was my biggest challenge. Go to restaurants, didn't know what to eat. So Tracey Levy, thank you so much. I love kale and I love fries. Welcome.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
So tell me, what's this magic recipe that you have? And by the way, in a little bit, I will be sharing some amazing recipes, amazing pictures that right now I wish I could have all of them. But what's your secret sauce? What's your secret recipe?
The secret sauce is that all of us are unique. And so we have to tune in and tap into what our bodies actually are craving and needing to sustain us, to give us energy, to make us just be who we want to be and function the way and function ideally for ourselves. And that's that each of us are individual. So what works for my body is going to be different than what works for your body or anybody here who's watching. And so together we establish what works for you. And there's a whole process that we go through. Oftentimes it's an elimination diet, but at the end of it, I call it food freedom, because we figured out the secret sauce for your particular body.
So how does that work when you talk about elimination? And I think that's an interesting concept, which I've not heard before. I've used it in my own life. Just I eliminate friends and family members and that kind of stuff, but I haven't eliminated food. So how does that actually work?
Yeah. So a traditional elimination diet takes place over 21 days. So there's a 3-week mark, and we eliminate a bunch of things. And it's not exactly the same foods for each person. So I vary it depending on, when I first meet you and we start chatting, I do a really large deep dive into what you eat, your behavior, your lifestyle, all of these things, which gives me a better idea of what we might want to take out.
Right.
And so, there's some typical offenders, gluten and dairy are definitely coming out of there. Usually soy, sometimes eggs, sometimes nuts, sometimes corn. So sugar, alcohol. So it varies a little, again, depending on who you are. But we take these things out for 21 days. And they have to be out 100%. There cannot be a cheat, because we need to cleanse your whole body from these toxins, from these foods or these potential toxins.
Right.
And what we're looking for is at the end of that period, we will start to introduce those foods back in. And there's a really particular way in which we do that. And then we look for possible effects. And it doesn't always come in the form of a bellyache. So that's what's sort of interesting too. So, I encourage my clients to journal everything and take very good notes of what their body might be experiencing when we start to bring, say, dairy back into their diet. Are they having brain fog or headaches, or are they breaking out? Sometimes we get acne on our backs if we're actually allergic to something. And you don't have to have an allergy the way that celiac,
right.
is a specific allergy, but it's an intolerance. It's your body's way of telling you that something is wrong and that this food is a toxin for you. So, if we take gluten as a good example, gluten's very hot. Everyone loves to talk about gluten intolerance. Right. I don't want to have gluten, but gluten is tolerated by lots of people. So right. You really have to identify if it's tolerated by you, and if it's not, then we'll replace it with something else. And if it is, great, let's leave it in, and gluten can be a part of your diet if you want it to be.
Right. So this is what's interesting about gluten, and I'm still a little confused, is, what is that reaction to gluten, the reaction that makes you feel ill? And I have to say this, and look, we're intelligent beings. I mean, we're responsible for our own thoughts. We own them. We're responsible for our own actions or decisions. And so it's just a matter of us now becoming simply aware of our bodies as well. And the challenge I think that a lot of people have is they just ignore the symptoms, within 30 minutes to several hours after eating, and decide, whatever, and whatever they do. At least that's what I used to do. And I started becoming very aware of different foods about 10 years ago. And one of my favorite drinks of all time, and don't crush me on this one, is Coca-Cola. It's the real thing, right? I grew up with Coca-Cola. And but every time, even today, that I drink it, I just have this odd reaction. It doesn't feel good. And so, once in a while when I'm amnestic, when I forget, then I drink it and then enjoy it for about 2 minutes and then it's over. Right. So how is it that what are these things with gluten? What's the real problem with that?
Well, first, I just want to touch on what you just said, because that's a really big point, is that, I often will say to people, most of us walk around just justifying that we don't feel well. And
right.
It's not normal, right?
Right.
Unbuttoning your pants after a meal, walking around with brain fog and feeling just not 100% clear, having belly aches, running to the bathroom. Like, these are not normal reactions. And it's your body's way of saying, like, something is wrong. And
right.
So you can eliminate these things, right? Like, we can do a couple of, make a couple of changes and your fog will clear up, your belly will feel better. So I just do want to touch on that, because I think it's a really important point that we all make justifications for how we feel. But we shouldn't, it's not normal. We don't need to feel that way. And then, so to answer your question about gluten, it often can create inflammation. And inflammation presents itself also in many different ways. But when you're inflamed in your belly, in your gut, you aren't going to feel well. And again, it's going to show itself in lots of different ways. The most common way, and the main way, sure, is in your belly. Stomach aches, issues with the bathroom one way or another, constipation, diarrhea, constant pain, bloating. You often hear people say, I ate something and, 2 hours later, I look like I'm 6 months pregnant. That's a real thing. And then a few hours later, they can go back and have that, pretty flat belly. So it's the gluten that is reacting. It's the inflammation in our body that's reacting and causing all of these things.
But here's my question on gluten, though. Did we have this problem, like, say, 20, 30 years ago, or did we simply not recognize it?
And that's a big question, because, a lot of people will say, oh, when I was young, I ate everything I wanted and I was super healthy. Like, what's different today?
Right.
Well, there's a lot that's different today. And the way that our food is produced, the quality of our food, the way that, Monsanto is treating crops. I have to call them out because that's the real pain point for us, especially because these things are made, they're cheaper. And so that's where people will tend to spend their money instead of buying the higher quality products. And then they end up getting, pesticides and all sorts of junk and gunk. But, there's a big debate on that, right? Like, are things so different now because of the quality of our food and the way that our food is treated and just simply living in America and this is what it is? Is that the problem? Or do these problems exist? And I'm more in the camp of, here we are today, and this is sort of a newer age problem because of how our food is being treated.
Right.
Wheat is one of the largest offenders in terms of genetically modified crops, corn and soy being the other two. And it affects our bodies. So when people say, like, I'm fine with X, Y, and Z, are they really fine? And I think it's, again, sort of pushing down that what could be going on with you just to pretend, to put on this facade, like, I'm never going to stop eating X, Y, and Z, which I hear that a lot from people. I will never, ever give up my cheese, my bagel, my, soy sauce, because they don't want to face the reality. Right. But the reality is that our crops are, they've been tampered with. And it's hard to trust where your food is coming from. And, I once heard that when we get shipments of fresh fish that go to Japan, and they go through a whole, vetting process, and the fish that is discarded by Japan comes straight to America. So, like,
really,
right? Like, we're getting, secondhand fish. So, if you think about it like that, just another quick example is, people who have dairy and gluten intolerances and really can't digest and handle those foods, if they go to Europe, it's a completely different reaction. So I think it's a huge sort of testament to other countries and how they treat their products and their food, and how we don't necessarily give the same care to ours.
Yeah, I think Europe has, or I know Europe has, much stricter regulations on all sorts of household products, and I imagine foodstuffs. And I guess the the perspective that we can have is that, before 10,000 years ago, before the time that we started, growing our own plants and growing our own crops and then starting to process foods, our bodies could manage that load of, let's call it, inflammatory agents. But now in our modern day, with the lifestyles that we have, and potentially all the bad habits that we have, that now there's just too much. And so that means you have to change some of that, if not all of that, so that you don't have all these inflammatory changes. I mean, just look at the fact that we now have a new classification of disease called the sitting disease, which is more unhealthy than a smoker. And I think the number is 11 marathons in 1 year does not compensate for a 6-hour daily, sitting process. And so, and with cardiovascular disease. And so now we have this different way of living in the modern world, that when in the past a little bit of gluten didn't do anything, but now it does. And so it's even more important just to be aware. So when you do this elimination process, I mean, what's left when you start? I mean, there's not much you can eat then, is there?
No, there is. And that's one of the things that I'm very big on is I like to tell you what you can have and make it more of a, look how lucky we are to be able to have all of these things. Yeah, we're going to take out a couple of things. It's for the short term and it's for you to feel well.
Right.
Fruits, vegetables, healthy grains, quinoa, and even rice. Rice is always a really interesting one. People are always shocked to hear that I love rice. I'm a big proponent of rice. Of course, everything in moderation. We can get into the whole arsenic debate, as well. But in terms of a healthy grain, rice is a healthy grain. And it is very much allowed. It's naturally gluten-free, which I also really like, as is quinoa. Beans, depending on how you digest them, but beans are always allowed when we do elimination diet. And animal protein, which of course, if you're plant-based, it's, we work around it. You can have nuts, and, depending if we take nuts out, but nuts and seeds are really great for protein. And then if you aren't plant-based, then all of the animal proteins. Of course, I try to be particular about the quality of them and all of that, but I meet my clients where they are. So let's see where you're starting. Are you someone who only eats chicken and eggs and, bread every day? Well, maybe the first thing I'm not going to teach you is about wild salmon, because maybe that's just not the very first place that we need to start. But in time, yes, it's very important that we have wild fish and that we have antibiotic-free and hormone-free poultry and beef and have pasture-raised eggs. Like, these are extremely important things that go hand in hand with what I was saying about our crops and all of the GMO, and all the sprays and all of the pesticides that we're ingesting, and if you think, one of the things that's sort of a visual for me that's so hard to digest is, if you think about an animal getting antibiotics and then
Right.
we eat that animal,
Right.
we are ingesting antibiotics for something that our bodies never needed. So that's another reason why our bodies are reacting differently than they did, 50, 75 years ago, because this just wasn't the case.
Interesting. So I have a question for you because, in my particular instance, and I really think I started paying more attention to my weight about 10 years ago. I'm not going to divulge my age, publicly. That's a secret. But I found that, I was working out a lot less and just, and I enjoy food. The truth is, if I wasn't a plastic surgeon, I'd be a photographer. And if I wasn't a photographer, I'd be a chef. And, my mom was great in the kitchen. She went all to the best schools. And so I was always very lucky. And then living in all these different countries, was exposed to so many different foods. And so I just enjoy great food. So my compliance with all these diets was almost nil, or was nil, because I couldn't keep up with them. Yeah. So if I were to ask you, in general, compliance with regular diets, not yours, just regular systems, what would you say that compliance is, so that people have a sense of, I'm not the only one that has a problem?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that I always say is that I don't believe in traditional diets. So like a Weight Watchers, a Nutrisystem, a South Beach diet. I don't subscribe to that lifestyle for the simple reason that I think it doesn't work. It gets people, really jazzed, and we all have this inner competitive spirit. So it's like, yes, I'm going to go on Weight Watchers, and you do, and you stay on it for however long, and then all of a sudden you don't, and then you feel disappointed in yourself and sad, and you gain weight, and it takes an emotional toll on you too. So I'm not a fan of diets, but there are some things that I think are really universally important diet rules. And I put them in quotes because they're not really diet rules. They should just be life rules that I think are helpful, would be helpful for everybody. The number one thing is drink more water. And I always like to stop there and say, everyone knows it, right? It's like, I've heard that before, 8 glasses a day, how hard could it be, right? But yeah, me too. But the truth is that none of us drink enough. And we have to take into account the salt intake and working out and how hot it is, especially in the summer months. If you're sweating a lot, you have to be replenishing that water. If you do a really intense, cardio workout where you're, like I'm a big spin fan. So I'm in that spin class for 45 minutes in a really hot room or a Bikram yoga room. You are releasing so much, you have to replenish. So that's a really universally sort of easy thing to say, but it's not easy to always implement. So again, meeting people where they are, but that's where I like to start. And then of course, adding in dark leafy greens,
Right.
Making sure that you're getting enough veggies in general. I always say the veggies should be the star of your plate, the star of the show. Everything else can just be little sides. So, if you're having a piece of fish, just a little piece of fish. If you're having a grain, just, maybe that much, something like that.
Right.
And just trying to, again, not take away too much, but just sort of flip the script a little bit. So we're adding in so much good.
I think, what I like about your approach, and although my diet regimen is different, I'm going to call it, I always like to call it nutritional regimen. My nutritional regimen is a little different than yours, or the one that you're just sharing. And I know the important thing and the distinction that you have is that you don't make anything wrong. And so you're helping people, and I like the word that you used earlier. It's the elimination and I should say the discovery process. What's going to work for you. And I think it's very important for anybody listening in, if you don't like veggies, okay, fine. You know what? There's a way. And I like your message that you shared with me earlier on is that there is always a way. And one thing that I think is also important, and I don't know if you really incorporate this in the way you do things, but I've discovered this more recently with some of the cookbooks that I've discovered, is simply this, is that our tastes, they're learned tastes. If you go way back to when you're a baby, I think you are not going to really quite enjoy that stuff right now, right? Yeah. I don't think anybody's going to enjoy that. Well, maybe Robin will, but I'll have to check in with Robin in a moment. But they actually taste good. But the truth is that a lot of the tastes that we have are very much learned. So you can also unlearn them. And what I like what you said, and I want to talk about this now, is you can find healthy replacements for unhealthy ones. Mm-hmm. So talk to us about those two things.
Yeah. So that is 100% true. Anyone that's been through an elimination diet of any kind will agree with the fact that we get rid of, like, sweets, for example. Sugar is obviously a huge problem for most people. And if you go through a period of time where you eliminate all sugar, your taste and your desire and your interest in a brownie and a cookie and ice cream, it goes away. Now, and I always say to people, it doesn't mean you can't ever have it for the rest of your life, but the need, the sort of I have to have this, the brain waves that are saying like, give me more, which is really what's happening, that goes away. So it's really interesting, for people to go through that discovery. It happens a lot with coffee as well, because I often will have people eliminate caffeine, which I didn't mention before. It's always the thing where people sort of give me the daggers and the daggers of looks, because it's, how can you take my coffee away? But do you really need that amount of coffee that you're drinking? And are you replacing it for what really could be, food and energy? And we can get into all of that, but it's the same kind of thing. It's the taste for coffee, sort of that addiction, that need. But
I drink coffee so I can go to sleep.
You can go to sleep.
Yep.
I've never heard that one before. But coffee is, I could talk for so long about the need for coffee and sort of that, what people associate with having their caffeine and their morning cup, their afternoon cup, and their energy levels and the dip and how they were, work to replace it and all of that. But, so yes, now I forget what your original question was about.
Well, I'm gonna ask Robin a question. Did you get your coffee fixed today?
I actually don't drink coffee.
All right.
I'm not a coffee drinker. It's natural energy.
All right. What's your unhealthy food then that you have that you won't give up?
My friend Duffy brings back this toffee from California. So it's almost like a Heath bar, but it's 1,000 times better. So when she brings that, it's 1 piece a day.
Oh, that's all right, right?
Yeah. Well, I have a personal trainer. So, the trick is go buy the candy dish, eat 1 piece of candy a day. You're fine. If you stop there and eat a few more, you're in trouble.
Oh, well, I recently got married, and so I have to hide, my foods that she doesn't approve of.
Oh.
I'm very good at hiding my stuff.
Love that. That's great.
So I forget the question. Do you remember what the question was?
Was it about replacements?
Yeah. Oh, that's what it was. So how's that process that you go? Because what was it? I did something the other day. Oh, it was French fries. So my story in French fries is, or let me ask you this question first, okay? Honestly. And you've traveled to Europe as well?
Yep.
All right. Where do you find the best French fries in the world?
Well, there are a lot of places in New York that I really love, but Paris, is that what you're going to Paris?
No, Belgium. Holland and Belgium have the best French fries. Absolutely. Hands down. Huh?
Yeah, I have been to Belgium, but I don't remember having their fries. I can't.
Okay. All right. So for me, in my case, my wife made these amazing bean fries and asparagus fries, and they were absolutely wonderful. It's like, wow, okay, I'm cool with this. I don't need French fries, and that was huge for me, and that's why I like to hear more about helping people replace the unhealthy stuff with the healthy stuff, and there truly is a way that can be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So one of my favorite things is to find new ways to eat French fries, because and I shared this with you earlier, I really do eat a lot of French fries. That's a very real thing, that my business name is Kale with a side of fries. That really is who I am. Anyone who spent any time with me knows that I always am on the lookout for the next best fries, but I also love to make them at home. So I will make regular potato fries. I will make sweet potato fries, which I think are the two most common fries that we talk about or that we see on menus. But then I love to make carrot fries, parsnip fries, avocado fries, eggplant fries, zucchini fries. I mean, the ones you just mentioned are interesting. I've never tried asparagus fries. I'll have to try that. But I think it is so much fun, and it's fun to be creative in the kitchen. And it's pretty simple. I don't do anything. You'll see on my site and on my social pages that I don't make super complicated foods. I'm not a trained chef. I just really enjoy being in the kitchen. I love playing around and discovering things. And then, it makes you feel good when you eat a bunch of carrot fries or a bunch of parsnip fries. There's no guilt associated, which is really nice. And I talk to my clients about this a lot. If you're going to eat something that is quote unquote bad, you shouldn't feel guilty about it, because you're not going to actually enjoy that thing. Your cortisol levels are going to rise because you're stressed about it, and then you're going to get bloated and gain weight. So you should never be stressed about it. But, if you were to eat French fries every single day, that might be a problem. But if you were to have carrot fries and parsnip fries and zucchini fries and avocado fries, those are things that our bodies need and want and love. Right. And it just makes it, more fun, changes it up.
And again, I think it really comes back to this, is that, and you alluded to that earlier on, I mean, you have to take responsibility for your own body. And when it doesn't feel right, then, that should be, the light bulb going off that says, hey, you know what, maybe our body shouldn't have this, or maybe we need to change something else within it. And it's with anything. It's with alcohol or any kind of sugar products. I totally minimize my sugar nowadays. I think sugar is part of the biggest addiction in this country.
Oh yeah.
And it's a problem. And nothing against any of these food companies. I mean, they're out to make money and to satisfy the public. But you take certain cookie brands, and they have 20 or 30 different varieties of the same cookie, depending on what culture they're selling the cookie in. And so, they spend a lot of money and dialed in to what stimulates our taste buds. And, the joke is always when the chips, the potato chips, I don't know which company it is, but It's sort of like you can't just eat one. And the recipe is designed for that.
Yes.
And so, but it's not their fault. They're not bad people, in my opinion. They're just smart. So we just have to be smarter and realize, okay, what is it that we really need? You see some of the fast food chains, they're adjusting their menus, and that's being smart. That's being responsible. It's still your choice, to decide what you're going to eat or not. So my question to you then, when you do the French fries, if you have some specific tips for us, right, that are also non-chefs. Well, you're a chef, obviously, because I'm looking at a whole bunch of recipes, which we'll jump into in a moment. I mean, that's chef material, just in case you want to know. But what's your secret with making these veggie fries?
Ease. Honestly, it's ease. I play around, with spices. I'll play around with oils, sometimes sesame oil, coconut oil, just kind of changing it up a little so it's not always the same.
Right.
But I play around, so I don't really follow recipes. I mean, sometimes I do when I'm making real food, but when I'm making French fries, often I don't. Sweet potato fries, I try to make them sweet. So I'll, maybe play off with some cinnamon or, see what I can do to coconut oil, especially to make those a little sweeter. If I'm making carrot fries, I'll usually do more savory spices. If I'm doing, foods like eggplant, avocado, zucchini, all of those, I'll usually do some kind of almond meal or almond flour to make them just, crispier. So I don't really have one secret. I kind of I play. And every Friday, I post pictures of my French fries on my Instagram feed. So they're either pictures of the food, fries that I've made that week or fries that I've had while I'm out that week. It sort of depends on, where I've been and what the situation is. But I'm kind of normalizing indulgence. That's what I'm sort of going for, is that it's okay to indulge. But again, like you're saying, you have to be really conscious about that. So it's conscious eating, it's conscious indulgence, not just unconscious eating and, binging on things. That's a very, very different thing.
And again, I think it's the key here is, not everybody has any kind of sense of how to experiment, how to play with different things. And, sometimes a little afraid to venture out and totally mess up a dish. And so the best advice that I have is just, connect with Tracey, go to her website, check out her recipes and try out those recipes, because clearly, she's done a lot of experimentation. My father actually invented a new kind of bread. It's called quick bread. And me being Dutch, when he retired, actually, is a funny story. When he retired, then he wanted to go back to his past in Paris when he had a part-time job in a bakery just to pay his student loans. And he loved that time. And so in his retirement, he wanted to make croissants. And for anybody who knows about croissants, it's probably the most difficult bakery or baking that's out there. And so him being a scientist and an engineer, he had it all set up, and you'd have these special thermometers put into the oven so that he could measure precisely the temperature. The only problem was that he was also very frugal. So he didn't buy the best thermometers. And so they would explode in the oven. And the word for mercury, so these are mercury thermometers, is called, in Dutch, is called quick. So we laughingly call it quick bread. Fed my dog, probably killed it as a result. But a lot of failed experiments with mercury and croissants. But what I like to do is, let's see, Robin's going to laugh at me for this one, because last time we had a lot of fun to share the screen, and it wouldn't happen. But I'm doing it differently this time, Robin, and there we go.
Here it is.
All right.
Woo, way to go, Doc.
So these are some amazing recipes. This is on Kale with a Side of Fries website. So kalewithaside-of-fries.com. And so I'm very hungry. But I like this one. Cauliflower crust pizza. What, Robin?
I said I'm hungry now too. Thanks.
Yeah. So this reminds me of Easter. This one.
Yeah, very colorful. Yep.
So tell which one are we going to talk about today?
So whichever. We can talk about. I guess just again to just blanket say about most of these is they're very simple. The cauliflower crust pizza is probably the most complicated recipe that I have on here, and it's not hard. It's just a lot of steps, so you need a lot of time. But I have made this recipe and shared this recipe with real, true pizza lovers, and I've gotten the seal of approval. My husband being one of them, who I always have to give the plug for him because he doesn't eat anything that I eat or cook. We're living in the same house, but two different worlds when it comes to food, and he really enjoys this. So this is a great recipe. It's a crowd pleaser. As you can see, it's a little crispy there, which is nice. And the thing you have to know is it's not going to be exact, right? Like I'm not looking to completely replace what a typical, delicious New York slice is going to taste like, but it completely hits the spot, which I think is great.
And I think that's a key point because recently I'm personally, after all these different nutritional regimens that I've tried out, and I share this with the earlier one, the one that I finally got to get dialed in and get the results, amongst a whole bunch of other factors that contributed, is the keto diet. And what I found with the keto diet is that there's a lot of things that are eliminated from that diet. And for example, breads and rice and stuff like that. So one of my favorite things to eat is actually bread. And what I found is that there's so many amazing replacements of bread and muffins and stuff like that that people have diligently figured out and that are healthy. And the only thing is that they're not exactly the same what you learned to like in the past, but they're close enough that you can absolutely enjoy it. And so I would say that's probably exactly the same thing with your pizza. It's going to be different than your New York pizza, but guess what? Probably a lot healthier and just as good, if not better.
Well, it's just also tampering your expectations a little bit that, it still is pizza. It still hits the spot of, this is what I was craving for dinner tonight and that I wanted, but it doesn't have to be that New York slice in order to achieve that, that craving or get to that craving. It's very true. Healthy swaps is one of the bigger things that, one of the things I really talk to most people about. I always say there is a healthy replacement for every unhealthy thing that you want. And I really believe that to be true. And cauliflower crust pizza, it's all the rage now. If you go to, Whole Foods or many grocery stores, you'll find crust in the frozen section that's cauliflower based, already sort of created for you, which is a nice, by the way, side note for that recipe. You can also just buy the crust, make all the toppings, saves you a lot of time. But, it's just a simple swap and you still get to enjoy that thing. So you'll find that a lot, on my site. And certainly if you follow me on social media, I'm very big into that. I have certain products that I've really grown to love because they replace a lot of things for me. And you're actually getting, it's not just that you're not getting unhealthy things, you're actually getting healthy things. So one of my favorite things that I always like to share is black bean pasta or lentil pastas. They have a tremendous amount of protein in them. They're usually combined with rice, so it's usually that bean and rice together. But if you look at the box of black bean pasta versus a box of just regular, either whole wheat or regular pasta, there's no nutritional value over here. Basically nothing. And over here, it looks the same. It tastes generally the same, and you're getting tons of nutrients. So to me, it's a no-brainer when you're looking at these two together. So, that's just another example of how there's a healthy swap for everything.
What about this product called Konjac? Are you familiar with that?
I'm not.
Right,
with the K. Yes, right? With the K?
Yeah.
Yes. I just read about it, but I don't know that I can speak enough about it.
Yeah, they make noodles, and I think there's a different name for it. It's konjaku, konjaku potatoes. devil's tongue, whatever. And there's another name for it. Let's see, I'm looking right here. It's called sukiyaki, I think. Oh, no, it's used often in sukiyaki. So, but here's what's interesting, that my personal experience, and I've never really been fond of cauliflower. And I guess it's just because the way my mother made it was actually kind of boring. She just boiled it. And it wasn't very, very tasty. It was like one of the least enjoyable foods that my mother ever made. I think, she was just so caught up with all the other incredible foods, but just not cauliflower. And so then I kept on hearing this, cauliflower puree and mash. And it's like, forget it. And so, and I love potato mash, and but not as much anymore, because I love cauliflower mash. And I went to this wonderful restaurant in the Sarasota area, and I thought to myself, let me just try it. Let me try this cauliflower mash. And it was so good. I enjoyed it so much that I went home, went straight to Amazon, bought all the different food processors I thought I needed to make this, and then proceeded to make about 3 or 4 versions that I found was actually better than what the restaurant had. And again, it's the same thing. There's incredible replacements out there for you. You just need the guidance of someone like Tracey to help you figure that out. And what I like what you do too, and you shared this with me before the show, is that you have your clients, when they're going out to restaurants, you actually help them figure out what to eat.
Yes. So my private clients have access to me 24/7. And I always say the ones that use me are the ones who are, the most successful. And, one of the services that I promote and that I offer to them when it comes, in this context, is tell me where you're going to dinner. Tell me where you're going to be traveling. Send me the link. Or, I've had people send me the menu when they arrive to the restaurant. Hopefully, that's a little risky if I'm not by my phone, but I really try to be extremely accessible to my clients in that way, because it's confusing. You go to a restaurant, you're not really sure. You don't want to be a pain. You don't want to be that person that's, asking for the scraps. Although we talk a lot about that in my coaching, because, I try to boost up your confidence big time, in that you're never going to be the most annoying, customer in the restaurant. And even so, it doesn't matter, right? Because we want to walk out of there feeling our best. But it's really helpful for my clients. They'll send me the menu. I'll usually give, 1, 2, 3 different options for them. And it just gives them this sense of, relief. Like, I can go to dinner, I can be social, I can be in this environment, and I don't have to worry that I'm going to totally blow it or eat something that I don't want to eat or feel sick, right? So it all depends. Like, are you on a weight loss journey? Or you want to, trying to fix your belly because you don't feel well journey? Is it a combination perhaps?
Right.
And so one of the ways to stay on your path to success is to utilize someone, like me, who will tell you, what to eat. And I always say, I pride myself that I can find something in every single restaurant. I just believe that to be true. There's always an answer. There's always a way that, you don't have to stay home and miss an event because you are trying to be healthy.
And I think, again, the importance here is that, bringing in some sort of flexibility in the process, having fun with the process. And, I've seen a lot of people that are very rigid about what they eat, and they kind of totally pick apart the menu. And it's obvious, it's clear, they have no clue what they're doing. They're just, now become this, acquired food snob attitude. Like, I'm better than you because I'm picking out this menu. And the truth is that I think, you can modify what's on the menu to an extent, and just getting the participation from, the establishment, because at the end of the day, they've been very thoughtful how they put this menu together, and you don't have to be nasty about it either. And the important part is actually owning the decisions that you make in alignment with how you feel afterwards, not because someone told you that you can't have onions or whatever. And obviously, if you don't like it, that's one thing. But I want to jump to another recipe and look at this avocado toast that you have here. It looks very yummy.
Yeah. So I love avocado. Avocado is one of my favorite foods. I eat avocado almost every single day, not always in the same way, but there's a lot you can do with avocado. But what I love about avocado toast, and it is sort of all the rage right now, everybody loves it. Restaurants have it on their menu, which I really commend because you're putting good, healthy fats into a breakfast dish that either can be paired, on its own, like the way I have it here, or with eggs, or, in lots of other ways. But making an avocado mash is really simple. And this is another one of those things where, it'll take you very much less than 5 minutes, sometimes just 2 or 3 minutes to put this together. And, it's just quick. I squeeze a little bit of lemon, salt, pepper, little bit of olive oil. Sometimes I don't even use olive oil. Here I had some red pepper flakes, on top. Do that. Sometimes my newest hack is that I'll throw a tablespoon of hemp seeds in my mash while mixing it. So I make sure that I get a lot of protein. And then you just throw it on whatever type of, bread. For me, I do a lot of paleo breads. That's just something that I enjoy. Ezekiel bread is another great option. That's what this is pictured here. So there are a lot of different ways that you can experience an avocado toast, especially if you're not, like I mentioned with the paleo breads, you can still have bread, right? It's coming in a different form and it's nutritious because you have that almond flour and other good ingredients in there.
And now I'm craving meatballs.
All right, we're going to meatballs now. Yeah. And I just want to point out, all these photographs are of actual dishes that Tracy's made.
Yes. So one thing, authenticity is really important to me. I don't want anyone to think that I'm, speaking out of two sides of my mouth. What you see is what you get with me. I'm really very real. But if I post some sort of sugar dessert, like that's a real thing. French fries, that's a very real thing. And so all my photos and everything that I post are things that I eat and have eaten. And I make, these meatballs are something that are a staple for me in my apartment. They're really easy. My husband actually loves them. So that's a plus, something we can actually eat together. But they're simple. It's simple to make, and it's simple in terms of time also, because, especially living in New York City, it's hard. You get home from work, you don't really want to spend a ton of time in the kitchen. And then with the cleanup, it's just too much. And meal prep and all that is a whole other topic, which I'm very big into. I believe in meal prep Sundays and, getting yourself together for the week, but it's not always feasible for people. So, these meatballs are a great, weeknight meal option for people that are really quick and simple and really nutritious.
Let me ask you a question, because this is sometimes a challenge for me. And sometimes it's actually less expensive to go eat out than it is to spend all this time to buy the foods and all the ingredients and to cook in. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yes. So that can be true depending on how many people you're cooking for and also how many meals you're willing to have with that particular food. So, again, going back to meal prep, if you were to make a big batch of, say, quinoa or rice or beans or something, chop up your veggies on a Sunday and repurpose them throughout the week, you're going to end up saving money. But if you, are buying like this meat, for example, and maybe you're making it for 1 or 2 people, if you're buying really high quality grass-fed ground beef, that could end up being a little bit more expensive than had you gone out. However, the difference between the two in terms of quality and what's going in your body, to me, is unparalleled. So yes, sometimes you are going to spend a bit more money. I try to help you stretch so that you can, because portion control is also very important, right? So you don't want to just blow, all that grass-fed meat in one meal. Right. But the quality that you're getting, the amount of salt you're putting in your food, exactly how much oil you're using and what it is that you're putting together is just overall, night and day healthier than going out. The other sneaky thing about going out, is that we're not always sure that the meat or the fish are the quality that we want them to be, unless we really know and we can really trust that establishment. So that's another thing too. I always like to point out to people that when you read organic salmon, that's not the same as wild. And so you want, there's just little hacks that these restaurants will put on menus to make you think something because they want to up their level. They want you to think, oh, like this restaurant has really good quality fish, but it's not the same. In fact, organic salmon is not really a thing. So you want to be really careful about menu reading and understanding the quality of the food that you're getting out. So while it might be a little less expensive to do that, only in some cases, I think overall we do save money when we cook at home. But I think it's to me, it's a night and day difference. And if you're buying that good quality meat and you trust that and you're going to eat that at home, it's worth it.
Awesome. So how do people find you, Tracey?
Yeah. So the website that you're looking at here is kalewithasideoffries.com. You can find me there. Also, I'm on social media, but you'll find me mostly on Instagram. That's where I really like to showcase what I'm eating on a daily basis and just my lifestyle in general. Also, Kale with a side of fries, so pretty easy to find me there. And if you want to email me and get in touch with me that way, it's just Tracy@kalewithasideoffries.com. All pretty simple to find me in that way.
Yeah, so you do private coaching, you do corporate coaching, group coaching. That's awesome. Yeah. So one thing, as we slowly wrap it up, here you are. I thought this was from the West Coast. I guess, where is this actually?
Oh, that is the West Coast. Yes.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought. So,
yes,
so we go back to your work with me. One-on-one coaching, so you can do coaching, group coaching, all these different things. That's awesome. Your thoughts on quickly on one thing that I'd like to do, and I like to do the intermittent fasting, and so I don't eat till about 1 o'clock, and I actually found that helps me with my portion control more than anything else. It just seems that I want to eat less. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, and so you do generally end up eating less because there are less hours for you to eat. So that's part of it too. So if you're really regimented, I don't like to make blanket statements about intermittent fasting because, again, I think everything is so personalized. So if it works for you and you like that, I think that's fabulous. And I think you should do that, especially if you find that you're eating less and intaking fewer calories, if that's your goal, right? And I think, as you mentioned, your goal is, wanting to lose weight. But I don't think it works for everyone. And I think it does take a certain kind of person and a certain kind of commitment in order to do that. It also depends on your lifestyle, who's supporting you. That's another big piece of this. Like, what is your support system at home, at the office? So I don't know that it's right for everyone, but I do support it as a really great way to give your body a break. I'm very big into the digestion period and making sure that your body has enough time to digest. And also allowing yourself to be a little bit hungry is okay. And I think that's another thing that people need to, work on. It doesn't come naturally. It's something that we have to work on, but it's okay to be a little bit hungry. And that comes with the fasting. So it's getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it takes a bit of time to do that. But in general, yes, scientifically, the science is there. I do believe it.
Yeah, the science is definitely there that not quite under eating, but just not being full is actually a lot healthier. They've done studies on animals that, I think it was on mice, that they actually live longer if they're slightly starved. But also what's important for us all to realize is that whatever we put on our plate, we have the habit and tendency to eat all of it. So putting smaller portions actually has helped us tremendously. Absolutely. Well, I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, Prescription Food Transformation, Real People, Real Conversations, and tapping into your authentic genius, which means tapping into your body and brain and energy intelligence to make smarter choices for yourself. Talking to Tracey Levy, and I want to leave you with the last few words of advice for all of us to take home and change our habits.
Yes. So balance. Balance is key. Giving yourself permission to not be perfect all the time, I think, is really important. And just knowing that it's possible to make change. I always say small steps lead to a very big change. So again, not feeling overwhelmed, like you have to do it all today and it matters, in this moment. I have to lose 10 pounds by next week. it's not the way to a healthy lifestyle for the long term. But giving yourself permission and the space to try and to experience and educate yourself on what's healthiest for you, what's your healthiest you. And just, balance is key. And it's really important to find your balance. Your Kale with a side of fries.
Awesome. Tracey, thank you so much. Robin, thank you again as well. And take it away.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Dr. Rademaker's Prescription for Transformation. Join Dr. Bart Rademaker live right here on Radio Star Worldwide each week or on demand 24/7.